You want to turn my wedding into your launch party?" That was the moment I stopped shrinking for her comfort. My sister Lila didn't just ask to speak, she was planning to propose at my wedding. And Mom? She backed her as always. I've spent 7 years paying their bills in silence. Hospital costs, rent, even her healing retreats. While they called it just family helping family. But when I finally said no, something shifted. If you've ever been the invisible one, the reliable one, the one who never takes up space, this story is for you, because that day I didn't fight, I didn't yell, I just chose myself, and you won't believe what happened next. She showed up in white, clutching a speech, but for the first time, Mom didn't ask me to compromise. She looked at me and said, "This day is yours. If you've ever felt erased, don't scroll past this. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all." Before we dive into the story, if you're enjoying these meaningful stories, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on more. Now let's start the story together. Mom said she wanted to talk about flowers, but I should have known the moment she mentioned Lila, it wasn't really about the flowers. The drive from Poughkeepsie to Hudson Valley took just under 2 hours. October had painted the trees gold and rust, and as I pulled into the gravel driveway, the Whitman house stood there, like a memory I hadn't asked for. The wind chimes above the porch trembled with every gust, the swing still broken the way it had been for years. I could smell coffee and lemon through the cracked window. Same old place, same old tension. "Claire, sweetheart," Mom called as I stepped in. "You look tired." That was always her way of saying I didn't look like Lila. Dad didn't say much. He was out front trimming the hedges, glancing over just long enough to wave with the clippers still in his hand. Inside, Lila sat at the kitchen table flipping through a glossy art magazine, sunglasses perched on her head like she was still in Florence. She didn't even glance up. Mom served sandwiches with just a little too much cheer. Turkey with cranberry spread. Your favorite, Claire. We made it through half of them before the air shifted. "So," Mom said, brushing crumbs off her lap, "Lila had the most wonderful idea. About the wedding." I set my glass down. "I was thinking," Lila cut in, "since you're already setting everything up for the ceremony, maybe we could do a soft launch for my art healing collective. Just a little blessing circle, maybe some installations near the tent." I blinked. Mom jumped in. "It won't take away from your day, honey. If anything, it'll add to the energy." "No," I said quietly but clearly, "that's not going to work." Lila looked stunned. "It's just, this means a lot to me. After everything the family's done for me." And there it was. That line. I felt it hit my chest like cold water. After everything the family's done for her, as if I hadn't been the one covering their bills, quietly paying off Dad's hospital co-pays while they flew Lila to Florence for that summer program. I remembered the second mortgage they took out so she could see the world, while I juggled work-study and midnight shifts just to stay in school. No one ever asked how I managed. "I have to go," I said. I walked out without another word, my boots crunching over leaves. In the car, my fingers tightened around the steering wheel. The silence pressed heavy, broken only by the soft hum of the engine. "I knew it," I whispered. "It's always about her." Some debts come with interest. Others come with silence and expectations. Rain traced long streaks across the living room window, while RSVP cards lay scattered on the coffee table like pieces of a puzzle I no longer felt like solving. Michael stood by the kitchen, pouring hot water into our French press. The smell of coffee mingled with the damp October air seeping through the cracked window. I pulled my sweater tighter and stared at the guest list again, pretending it mattered more than it did. I told him about the wedding pitch, Lila's plan to turn our wedding into a launch party. He paused mid-pour, eyes narrowing slightly but saying nothing until I finished. "She actually said that?" he asked. I nodded, and Mom backed her, said it would add energy. He set the mug down, leaned against the counter, arms folded. "You okay?" "I'm not angry," I said, and I wasn't. I was tired. We pulled out the old spreadsheet, my monthly transfers since 2016. It added up faster than I expected. Rent assistance, medical bills, Lila's legal fees that were never really explained. No one ever asked me. But no one ever stopped me either. Michael ran his hand over the numbers. 7 years. That's more than what we're putting into this wedding. I opened my banking app and stared at the auto transfer scheduled for the 15th. My thumb hovered over the cancel button. Then I pressed it. "That's it?" he asked. "That's it." I drafted a short message to Mom. "Wedding costs are higher than expected. We're tightening the budget. Hope you understand." I stared at it for a full minute before hitting send. 3 hours passed. Then my phone buzzed. Lila. Why would you do this? This is blackmail. All caps. Always all caps when she wanted to feel bigger than the conversation. I didn't respond. Michael watched me slide the phone face down. "Are you sure?" I looked at the kitchen light above him. It flickered faintly, just like it had for months. I always told myself I'd get around to it. "They took out a second mortgage for her," I whispered, "and now they want me to erase myself for her again." It wasn't anger, it was clarity. I stood to refill my cup. The flicker above me caught again, one beat, then dark. I didn't reach for the switch. Then the buzzer rang. Michael raised an eyebrow. I didn't move. We both knew before I checked. Lila was downstairs, and this time she wasn't hiding behind texts. Lila didn't wait for me to invite her in. She never does. The buzzer hadn't stopped echoing before her boots crossed the threshold. She looked around like the apartment offended her, eyes scanning the walls, the ceiling fan, the stack of wedding folders on the table. Her coat still dripping with rain, she stood there, hands on hips, like she'd just caught me in the middle of some betrayal. "So, this is how you're gonna do it?" she said, voice sharp. "Cut us off right before the wedding?" I didn't answer. The microwave beeped behind her. Leftover pasta, gone lukewarm. "You think this makes you look strong? It makes you look cruel." Still, I didn't speak. I watched her instead. Her eyeliner was slightly smudged, and the edge of her voice held something close to panic. "You know what this does to Mom. To Dad," she said. I leaned against the counter, arms folded. "They'll manage." Her eyes widened. "Wow." I took a breath. "You want to talk about damage? Let's." They mortgaged the house so you could study sculpture in Florence. They never even asked if I needed help with my loans. I've been sending money every month while you planned art circles and posted quotes about healing. And now you want my wedding day too? Lila scoffed. "This again. You're obsessed with being the martyr." "No," I said. "I'm just done being erased." She stepped closer. "You're selfish." I didn't flinch. "Does Ethan know?" That stopped her. She blinked. "Know what?" "That you're planning to turn my wedding into a promotional event." Silence. Outside, the wind whistled through the alley, rattling the old fire escape. For once, Lila didn't have a comeback. She grabbed her purse and muttered, "You've changed." I almost smiled. Finally. She slammed the door. Later that night, my phone lit up. It was Dad. "Hey," he said softly, the hum of the garage behind him. I heard. I didn't speak right away. "You did right," he added. "You deserve peace, Claire. If you need help, security or anything, let me know." My throat tightened. "Thanks, Dad." After we hung up, I walked to the table to clean up. One of the RSVP cards had slipped behind a stack of magazines. I pulled it out. Lila's name was on it, scratched out. She'd never sent it in. The next morning, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, almost. The call came from a number I didn't recognize, and a voice I almost didn't believe. I was wearing Michael's hoodie, sleeves too long, curled up on the couch with a half-sipped mug of tea when the phone buzzed. It was a quiet Saturday, a week before the wedding. The RSVP list sat open on my laptop. I was rereading it. not to count guests, but to ground myself in something that felt still. "Hello?" I said, hesitating. "Claire, this is Ethan Miller." There was a pause. I held the phone a little tighter. "I hope it's okay I'm calling," he continued. "I got your number from your mom's contact sheet. I wasn't sure if I should—" "What's going on?" I asked, sitting up straighter. He exhaled, the kind of sigh that carried weeks of confusion. "I saw Lila's post. She wrote something vague about a life-changing moment at your wedding, and I needed to clarify that I'm not proposing to her. Not then. Not like that." My tea went cold in my hands. "I never agreed to it," he added. "She talked about it like it was already happening, started referring to your ceremony as a dual celebration, said it would make the energy stronger. She even talked to a few of her friends about where they'd stand when it happened." I didn't speak. I couldn't. I told her no, Claire. I told her I wasn't ready, and even if I were, it would be our moment, not hers to orchestrate. He paused again. I imagined him somewhere quiet, phone pressed to his cheek, pacing like someone trying to leave a house he hadn't fully moved into. "She just kept pushing," he said softly, twisting every conversation back to how much she needed this, how it would anchor her. That's the word she used, anchor. Like your wedding was a floating dock she could tie herself to. A silence settled between us. Then he added, "She's not evil. I don't think that. She's just terrified of being ordinary." I swallowed. "I know." "You don't deserve to have this day turned into another performance," he said. "That's why I'm leaving. I wanted you to hear it from me." For a long time, I just listened to the static between his words. Then I whispered, "Thank you." He didn't ask for anything more. After we hung up, I sat for a while, letting the weight of it settle. Then I stood, walked to the bookshelf, and moved the small ceramic frog, Lila's third-grade project, from its usual place in the center. I shifted it just an inch off. Michael walked in from the kitchen, looked at me, but didn't say anything. He didn't need to. I picked up the phone again when it rang. Grandma Margaret. This time, I didn't hesitate. I answered. She arrived in an off-white gown, flowing and intentional, the kind that floated just enough to whisper bridal, but not quite enough to admit it. Lila always knew how to toe the line between bold and deniable. Standing just outside the archway of spring blossoms, she looked like a misplaced poem, beautiful, practiced, and entirely out of place. A staff member had warned me minutes earlier, a clipboard pressed to her chest like a shield. "They're here," she said gently. I nodded. I had expected this. Outside the red barn, the breeze carried the soft scent of wild lilac and cider. Guests milled nearby, fanning themselves politely, unaware of the quiet drama building by the stone path. I stepped out to meet them, Lila, Margaret, and trailing behind, Mom. Lila smiled with an edge of fragility. In her hand, a folded piece of paper. I just thought I'd read something, a blessing, from both of us. I looked at the paper, then at her. "There's no slot for it in the ceremony," I said evenly. Margaret, standing like a monument to old expectations, chimed in. "Claire, don't be cruel. Family means compromise." I looked at her too. I think we've redefined that word so many times, it's lost all shape. Lila tried again. "It's not a big deal, just a few words. I won't steal anything. I just wanted a moment to say something to you, to everyone." The silence between us was full of every past concession. I remembered the way she used to take my Halloween candy, then tell me it was only fair because she was too sensitive to go door to door. I remembered the time she spilled paint on my prom dress and said, "You weren't really the dress-up type anyway." I remembered sending checks with vague subject lines, for groceries, one for the plumbing, for the car, because Mom said Lila was in a season of growth. But now, standing in front of the wedding arch where I would vow my life to someone who never made me feel small, I realized I didn't owe her a single square inch of this ground. "No," I said. Just that. One word, firm and quiet. Lila blinked like she hadn't quite heard me. "What?" "No," I repeated. "There's no space for your performance here." Margaret's jaw tightened. "This isn't becoming, Claire. We raised you better." I met her eyes. "I don't think you ever raised me at all. I just grew up while no one was watching." The breeze picked up. A few petals from the flower arch tumbled to the grass. And then Janice stepped forward, her face unreadable, her hands fidgeting with her necklace. Everyone expected her to smooth things over, to ask me to be flexible, to say it was just 5 minutes, to remind me it was a special day for all of us. But she didn't. She looked at me, then at Lila, then back again. "This day is hers," she said. Her voice cracked just slightly. "Not yours." Lila's lips parted, stunned. Margaret's eyes went glassy, not with tears, but with disbelief. For once, no one moved to hug, plead, or make excuses. They left, quietly, without spectacle, just absence. I stood still as their figures faded down the gravel path. My dress rustled slightly with the wind, but inside I felt grounded, clear. The music shifted, piano chords drifting through the air. I turned. Michael stood a few steps behind me. His hands were folded gently, suit crisp, expression soft. "Ready?" he asked. I breathed in deep. My voice was steady when I said, "More than ever." And when I began to walk, alone, down the aisle of scattered petals and held breaths, it wasn't a statement, it wasn't a rebellion, it was simply the truth of who I had become. It wasn't the vows or the music that stayed with me. It was the silence afterward, the kind that didn't demand anything. A week had passed since the wedding. I was back in pajamas, feet tucked under a faded quilt on the couch. Morning light filtered through the curtains, soft and clean. Toast crumbs scattered across the counter. Michael was in the kitchen, humming as he rinsed the French press. I scrolled through the wedding album on my laptop. Photo after photo, guests sipping cider, Michael laughing with his brother, the flower girl dancing in her bare feet. And then one frame stilled me. Me, under the arch, head tilted back in a laugh. My hair caught the afternoon sun like gold leaf. There was no one beside me in the frame, just me. And it didn't feel lonely. It felt earned. The doorbell hadn't rung all morning, but the mail had been dropped earlier. Michael brought it in, dropped it on the kitchen counter, and didn't say much, just kissed my hair on the way past. A small envelope with my name in Lila's handwriting sat on top of the pile. I opened it slowly. Inside was a single folded letter. Half apology, half accusation. She wrote about feeling erased, about how the world only gave her crumbs of validation. She said I had weaponized peace by refusing to fight back. She ended with, "I hope you find what you're looking for. I just wanted something too." I didn't write back, not out of spite, out of finality. Later that afternoon, I checked my email. A short message from Mom waited in the inbox. Subject, "Thank you." The body read, "I'm starting therapy. You showed me something I needed to see. I'm sorry it took this long." No excuses, no layered expectations. I replied, "We can try, slowly." That evening, I moved around the apartment with a sense of quiet unfamiliarity, like I'd returned to a place that had been rearranged while I was gone. But it wasn't the furniture that had changed. It was me. I passed the bookshelf and paused. The ceramic frog, the one Lila made in 3rd grade, still sat where I'd moved it days ago. But now, I placed a small wedding photo next to it. The one where I was laughing, arms loosely at my side, sunlight dancing across the veil. It wasn't staged. It wasn't for anyone else. It was just me. I didn't place the frog there as a symbol of forgiveness. I didn't remove it either. It was simply part of the past now, still present but no longer taking center stage. I closed the laptop after the last photo and leaned back into the couch. I had spent most of my life clearing plates, folding napkins, staying out of the way while others took the spotlight. But that day, I didn't shrink. I was the center of my own story, and I didn't apologize for it. I didn't need a crowd or applause, just the quiet certainty that I finally stood where I belonged. That photo of me, laughing beneath the arch, reminded me that joy doesn't have to be shared to be real. Sometimes the hardest thing we ever do is stop shrinking for the sake of harmony. But peace built on silence isn't peace at all. True love, within families or otherwise, begins when we start seeing each other fully, not just fitting each other into roles. If this story reminded you of someone you've quietly stood behind, or a moment you finally chose yourself, I hope you'll share your thoughts. Sometimes our voices echo strongest when we speak gently, but truthfully.